It's just that mindset of people like, oh, I hate my job, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy the sports car because that's going to make me feel better. It's like you just latched yourself to that job even tighter. And so you're essentially making sure that, oh, I want to buy a bigger house because that will make me happy. Nothing in a material good world is going to make you happy. That's just it's a fool's errand to keep chasing those types of things. But having a few bucks in the bank will drop your stress level, and that is what will make you happy. And that's funny because when I wrote the book, I talked about financial independence, retiring early, and maximizing happiness, because a lot of people don't actually take a step back and think, hey, what will make me happy and what won't make me happy? And, across the board, it's never going to be when you're buying material things that's going to make you happy. But having time, having space, having freedom, that's what makes you happy. The ability to do what you want to do with your time. Oh, my kid has a soccer game. I can go to it. Your friend's having a 50th birthday party. Yeah, I can take that and go to it. I can take that flight and take that time off. That's the key.
Yeah. And it doesn't take much as much as people think, make sacrifice for 5-10 years. And you're sort of like, you can, I don't want to say be good about money, but it'll take almost a lifetime worth of burden off you. But if you go through those 5-10 years stressed out, it's like you haven't learned the tools. Now you still have to go through the 5 or 10 years of stress. And there's people, it's so funny. There's people who watched me go through my journey that weren't really interested. And then when I came across the other side, I'm like, oh, now I'm not rich. I still got to figure out ways to make money, but I'm not stressing about it. Now people are like, oh, I wish I had that. I'm like, you watched me do it. You still could do it, and you still won't do it.
You were right there. Yeah. It's funny you say that because it's true. You're always looking to make money. Like I joke about that when people are like, what are you going to do when you hit this goal? You're just going to sit on a couch and do nothing. I'm like, no, there's a million things that I want to do and a lot of things that I want to focus on, but I will have the freedom to be able to do those things. And it's right when you were saying, you were talking to other people and they were right there with that journey. I remember I learned about this tax benefit. It was years ago in DC that if you bought a house, you got a $5,000 tax credit. And it was a dollar for dollar credit against your federal taxes. And I found out about it. I thought, man, this is phenomenal. Like, it's like getting $5,000 for free. And I told it to somebody that I worked with. And they're like, oh, yeah, government doesn't want you to know about that. And I was like, who doesn't want you to know about that? Like, I'm telling you, I just found out about it. It's in the tax code. They want everyone to know about it because at the time, DC was pretty rough and they were trying to get more people to fix up the houses and buy them. And I thought that to me was like, it drilled down into mindset right away. So if somebody shows you this great opportunity and you're like, oh, they don't want you to know about that, that's not good. Well, there's a challenge with your mindset. You don't see these opportunities when they come, and you want to make sure that it's not something that's a con, but this isn't the tax code. It's pretty legitimate. But it was, that was $5,000. We bought an investment property for $50,000 and then got that $5,000 immediately back when we filed our taxes just a few months later. I couldn't believe what a great deal that was.
Yeah, the tax code is literally written to incentivize what the government does. Yeah,
exactly. Want. Buy a house, invest, save money.
Alex's point, what's even funnier to me. So I was hanging out with a friend like 2 weeks ago and they were busting my balls about, oh, it must be nice, whatever. And it's like, I have 750 YouTube videos that I've put out over the last 4 years. Have you watched them? Like, I'm literally spending my free time putting out videos about this.
And it's always find an aspect of it. I've had people say to me, I don't like real estate. And I'm like, okay, have you ever owned a rental property? And they say, no. I'm like, well, give it a try first. Do your research. I'm happy to answer questions. But buy that first property and see, maybe you will like it. And it's funny because the only people who have ever told me, oh, you don't want to get involved in real estate, that's only a way to lose money, are people who have never owned properties. I'm sure you guys have had that same experience. And I joke about this with people. I said, look, if you want advice about the law, ask a lawyer. If you want advice on how to fix your car, talk to a mechanic. Don't do the opposite. Don't ask the mechanic about the law or the lawyer about the car, because talk to people who have real experience, legitimate experience, know what they're talking about, and then they're an expert. Ask them. And a lot of times people will give this to you for free. I'm amazed at how welcoming people are when you express interest in something that they're passionate
I got all
about.
my legal advice from the barracks lawyers. You're saying this is not a good idea?
You don't ask people who've been divorced 3 times
Relationship
about your
advice?
marriage.
You
I
can
thought
ask
that
them-
was
you
I
can
thought
ask
that
them
was
how to
the
get
thing to
divorced.
do.
They're experts. So it's just that idea of talking to the people. And I tell people, look, find a thing you like. Maybe you're not a huge fan of rental properties, but you might like storage units, or you might like stocks. I mean, stock market's been going down dramatically in the last month, 2 months. Like, it's a good time to start looking at stocks. And so, as real estate right now is really high in a lot of markets, and we've seen a tremendous amount of appreciation. There is a little bit of giving back now. We're seeing some prices starting to fall, but still, it's tough to make the numbers work in a lot of markets. But stocks are looking better and better. And so I think it's that idea of just taking a look at different assets and finding one that works with your personality and focus on it and learn as much as you can about it, be invested in it. And then if you're ready for another asset class, tackle the next one and see. But again, it's not brain surgery. It's just this idea of a little bit of time, a little bit of dedication. You talked about putting out all these podcasts. And the thing is, every day you have to make some progress. You have to learn something new. You have to challenge yourself. And it's what you do in your free time. If you spend a little bit of time focusing on things, you'll get better at it every day.
Yeah. I miss these conversations about FI just because I just don't have them that much anymore, but it's so much. It's so simple. It's like, one of the things I first started when I got into finance, I was like, I just did the opposite of running away from a bank account, which is what I used to do, right? I would hide from, I don't want to look at it. And so what I did first thing in the morning, 6 a.m., I just look at it every single day. Look at my bank account. What's in there? Where'd the money go yesterday? What did I spend the money on? And it's just, it's the same thing as like fitness for me. If, I'm out of shape, it's like, yeah, you got to go to the gym. Like whatever it is you hate about your life, it's like, that's what you have to focus on most. So if your money's out of whack and you're like, I'm stressed out about money, it's like, focus on it. Pay attention, pay massive attention to it. If you don't like the way you look or feel physically, go to the gym. But it's an easy trap. I guess that's oversimple, because if I said, well, I don't like the car I drive, I got to get a new car. Like, that's a bad example. But there are certain, it really is an attention problem.
But it's also, and you find those tricks. Like, one of the things when people say, look, I'm kind of spending too much, I'm like, all right, go through your credit card, look at what you bought. And this is not a judgment issue, but go through everything you bought and just put a plus or a minus next to it. If you would have bought it again, or if you could go back in time, you would have bought it. And what I find is, people will go through their credit card statement and they're like, man, half of this stuff has a negative next to it. I wouldn't have bought it. And I'm like, okay, well, next time you are going to buy something, just pause, take a deep breath and think, do I want this? And is this going to get me where I want to be in the next 15, 20 years? And what you find is you won't buy it. And that was one of the things when I first got back from the Peace Corps and was living in DC and was working, I would just pause, think about a purchase beforehand, and then your brain kind of works through it for a second and it goes, I don't want this. This is just an impulse buy. And I found that my spending dropped dramatically. I mean, I wasn't spending a lot at the time anyway, because I was only making $24,000 a year. But even on that budget, I stopped spending dramatically just by thinking about every single purchase.
I know people who make $400,000 a year that are broke. They're broke and stressed out. And I know people that make $30,000 a year and they're getting ahead. It really is not, like you said, hey, I'm making $24,000 a year and I found ways to save money. Like it can be done. It comes back to the mindset. People go, oh, I can't cut anything out. I'm like, I guarantee you can cut out. You live in America. You have the highest quality of life of any human being that's ever existed. You can cut something out. Promise. The one I always throw at my girlfriend, she loves this one, is the air conditioning. I'm like, let's just turn it off. We'll be fine.